Hello, everybody.
Hello.
We are very happy to be with you again. For it was a long time. The previous meetup was in July, and we have a long time very busy on other projects. But we are very happy to be back again, and very proud tonight for us in Europe to be with a representative of Scrum.inc with Dee Rhoda. Thank you to be there, Dee.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. So you're the second American representative after Felipe Engineer. and yes, we are very proud because Scrum.inc is from one of the founder of Scrum, so is the origin of all our work about around the agile approach in BIM. So we'll start tonight with a short presentation of our community by Sébastien, and after a presentation of our sponsor with Brix, and after Dee will present her approach about Scrum in construction. So Sébastien, your turn.
Okay, thank you. So Agile BIM is a community that was created in 2019, so like 2 years ago. And the initial idea was that while developing Brix app, we met many people to understand what is Agile in construction and who is doing it, who is aware of it. And we met more and more people that know what is Agile, that wanted to develop Agile in their company, but they didn't have a common group to discuss about that. So we decided to federate a bit this initiative, and to especially to make to give the opportunity to people to talk to the community and to record some meetup. So currently we have a LinkedIn group, we have a Slack workspace, we organize some meetup roughly every month, sometimes a bit more distantly, but generally it's every month. So you can join the community. You will have several links on agileBIM.org. So the main activity is to organize meetups. So you can go on the site and you will find all the past meetup. You can also join the YouTube channel and subscribe to it, so you will have the new meetup online when they are available. And if you are interested to talk at the next meetup, just send us an email, or by LinkedIn you can contact us, or on the Agile BIM Slack also. We are interested by different type of meetup, but it could be agile coach that develops some practice on construction. It could be some architecture or engineer company who already develop their project using BIM framework, agile framework like Scrum or Kanban, or anything that is related to Agile. So on the site, you will find also some description of what we think is Agile. So it's not ended work. You can really contribute because it's needed. I think for people in the AEC industry generally don't have a lot of background of what is Agile. So we need a lot of educational content, so people can jump in and understand what it is. Beyond the buzzword Agile. And also you can contribute to written feedback. If you have an example of how you used Agile in a specific project, we would be really enthusiastic to help you format a bit the description of an article that you could publish in agileBIM.org. And finally, if you just want to be listed, whether you are a coach who is interested in Agile in construction, or a startup like Brix, like us, that develop a product on top of agility in the construction, or finally a company like Enya Architect or other who already use Agile as in project. It will be, of course, you can add your name, and you can even do it yourself just ask us to explain so that we explain you how. So we have several social networks. You can join us on YouTube, you can join us on LinkedIn or on Slack. And to get all those links, you can just go to the homepage and you will find all the information. So this was for Agile community. Now I will talk about Bricks, which is a collaborative application. Sorry, I forget about that. It's a new stuff. We wanted between the meetup for people, so that people can start with Agile step by step. We imagine this little formation by email. So if you sign in at the link below, you will receive some email, one email every week, and to teach you from the very beginning, when you don't know nothing about Agile, to a step where you can practice your project with Agile framework like Scrum or Kanban. And it is customized for, of course, for architecture. So we take example of the typical meeting, for example, that you used to have in architecture. So feel free to sign up. It's free, and we will be happy to send it this information. So now I talk a bit more about Bricks very shortly. So Bricks is a collaborative application, a bit like Asana, like Creo, that probably you may know, but adapted to the field of construction industry. So basically, you could manage a topic you have to work on your project. You can historize a decision. You can do some planning. So, but when you start, you have to list all the subject that you want to work on. You have to be precise. So this is something that in Scrum it is important to detail all what needs to be done. And then you have a planning where you can see all the stage of your project. You can go inside the stage and work with some sprints. So probably Dee Rhoda will explain you more in depth what is a sprint and why it is important. And finally, when the sprint is started, you can follow up the task on a Kanban board. And this is a point where it linked to the AEC industry. It is linked, of course, to the 3D model and to EFC and to BIM. And this is, I think, one thing that differentiates with application you may know. So I suggest you test it because it is free, up to 3 users. So you can use it for small project and to start. And we have even a coupon if you want to have a price a bit lower. So feel free to test and ask us if you have any questions. So I finished with Bricks. Thank you for listening. And now Dee, you can start your presentation. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Sebastian. And thank you for inviting me to your meetup today to talk about Scrum. My name is, as mentioned, is Dee Rhoda. I'm a principal Agile transformation consultant at Scrum.inc. As mentioned, Scrum.inc. was founded by Dr. Jeff Sutherland, and Dr. Sutherland is the co-creator of Scrum. And I find much pleasure and joy continuing to work with Jeff for many years, and over the last few years, working with Jeff to better understand how we can bring his Scrum framework into the construction and design world. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this topic. I'm passionate about it, and it's a topic I have a history with. My father actually founded a diversified highway heavy civil general contractor company. My family's company has been providing construction infrastructure services to U.S., state, county, and municipal transportation departments since 1956. Of course, that's way before I was born. So, okay. Almost 2 years ago, as I mentioned, I started digging in and working more closely with companies in the design and construction industry. I've dedicated a large portion of 2021 researching how to implement real change in this industry. And I've also developed a 2-day course for those who might be interested in learning how to be a Scrum Master in the design and construction industry specifically. Some of you might have attended a meetup here for the BIM community where Felipe Engineer presented. Felipe and I created that material together. So there's plenty of bad jokes in there as well for those of you who know Felipe.
We noticed that. We noticed.
Yeah, and bells and whistles and sounds. So
yeah.
So before I go any further, I would love to know who is with us today in this live stream. Can you go into chat and chat who you are and where you're from, so I can get a feel for the audience?
Yes, we have a few people who answer already. So we have David Delgado from Barcelona. We have Jeff from Michigan. Juan Carlo from Peru. David McCarthy from Ireland. Trevor from Toronto. Brinda from Brazil. David from Nigeria. Gabriel from Brazil also. And Paola from Austria. So quite all around the world.
Yes, we're global. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. Let's try to stay interactive in this meetup. It's a meetup. It's a conversation of sorts, isn't it? Right? Okay. So before we move on, though, I did want to mention that with my background, I can say with much confidence that lean is not enough. The design and construction industry needs Scrum. And I'm going to take you on a journey to help you understand why I say lean is not enough, why I say this industry needs Scrum.
And can you tell us why you talk about lean? Because lean is very implemented in the construction for you?
I'm going to step through that. Quite honestly, I'm not seeing enough lean principle application in the design and construction industry, especially in the United States. We're not seeing the use of lean. I see more of it in Europe, but we need more than just lean, and that's what I want to step through with you. Okay, but in order to do that, I have to go back into a world that some of you have probably left because you're Agile BIM users. But why lean is not enough is because the design, bid, build approach that has been around for a very long time doesn't work. And you all know this approach. First, we design, and we might design with BIM or not, but we first design. Then we create bids. Bids can be hard, lump sum, cost plus type of bids. But it's after the bid, we go into we initiate the project. And after initiation, what do? After we initiate the project, what are we doing? We're planning and planning and planning. And then finally, after all of that, we finally get to build. And after that, we're monitoring and inspecting what we're doing, and very little change can occur. However, so that we can close out and hand over the keys, so to speak. And this is a very stage-gated approach. It looks familiar to folks here today? The stage gate, a traditional bid, build?
I think so, yes. Quite the same in all the countries.
Yeah, it's the same in all the countries, but that traditional approach of design, bid, build isn't working anymore. Many other industries have already recognized that it doesn't work. And they want to change the way they're working beyond the IT group. Scrum.inc itself has more companies outside of IT implementing Scrum than actually in IT, which is where Scrum started. So we know that in manufacturing, marketing, human resources, and even sales, they're investing heavily in changing the way they work so that they can embrace an agile mindset and an approach to doing work that actually includes customers and owners and stakeholders and employees with this agile mindset. It's an evolution in approaching work, which is creating a competitive advantage in all industries. design and construction has been lagging in changing the way they work. That's why it's so gratifying to be here with all of you, because you get it. You're agile. You're an Agile BIM community.
We'll try.
Yeah. Well, the website itself, that's a great community website that Sebastian showed. I mean, I hope you all take some time and go into that website if you haven't already. Yes.
Yes, thanks. Just to mention that everybody could ask question in the comments, and I will ask the question to the.
Oh, great! Thank you.
Time to time. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thank you. So yes, it's gratifying to be here with all of you. You have that agile mindset because you're a part of an Agile BIM community. You understand the need for change. But many others in the design and construction industry do not. They're struggling as a whole. They're struggling as an industry. And here's what I have witnessed since I started focusing in on this area. I have noticed that this is a group of, this is an industry steeped in a lot of tradition and very hierarchical. And most importantly, this industry has a strong aversion to change. I'd like to stop right there and ask if we can get some dialogue going. As you moved into BIM, was there an aversion in your organization or with the contractors you were working with to use BIM?
Oh, okay. We wait for some comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a comment from from a client that say he invests a lot in BIM. He pay quite a lot. Some architect or engineer to work with BIM, and after a few projects, 5 years of project with BIM, for him it's the same. BIM didn't change the way people work. So that's why, yes, the tool is not enough. We have to change also the way we work. But BIM, I think BIM, it's a great horse, cheval de Troie, horse, Trojan horse to implement.
Horse.
Yes, to implement this change. But and Paola say yes, there is a resistance in the whole country. So
yeah,
agree with you.
Yeah, but that's our job now, isn't it? To work through this traditional hierarchical aversion to change group. We have a hard job ahead of us, but we need to change, and we need to help them change their culture. You are at the forefront, like Franco said. You have the Trojan horse with BIM to come in to say, here's a tool, but within the tool, you can help change the culture. You can help drive that change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So and again, you're driving that culture change. And if we can show that there is a flaw in that approach, we can begin to really affect real change. How can we do that? How can we show that there's a flaw in this approach? Well, let's talk about delivery time. According to KPMG 2016 report, listen to this, over 50% of engineering and construction professionals report one or more underperforming projects from the previous year. Is that a surprise to anybody here that there's more than one underperforming project going on right now?
Oh.
Yeah. Let's look at budget creep. We know from Construction.com, this is a staggering number, $1.63 trillion could be saved annually from infrastructure productivity changes alone. Think about that. Just changing the infrastructure productivity, look at all the money we can save there. And how about a new direction? McKinsey has reported that 58% of owners, your customers, right? The owners, they're saying that they're not going to continue to use this traditional design, bid, build approach anymore. Look at that, I can't even say it. It bothers me so much. They, at a minimum, these owners are saying they want to move to a design build approach. The design and construction companies that they simply want to stay competitive, stay in the market, they better be ready to meet the demands of their owners and their stakeholders.
Dee, as I understand, in the 90s, that was the same reason that make that Jeff Sutherland and people like that create Scrum, because there was a new big new project in IT, and there was this kind of problem also.
Yeah. Well, yes, Scrum initially, you're right. It started in IT, and it started with Jeff going to a bank and helping the bank understand the need to change that traditional way of working, that waterfall approach, that traditional stage gated approach to IT. That applies, again, as I had mentioned, in any industry. We need to move away from the stage gates. We need to bring people together to design and build together. And that's what modern projects require. Modern projects are requiring that method. Yes.
And there's another comment from Edward that said that it's the same reason when BIM and Scrum are hard to implement. But it's a change that came from the bottom to the up. So there is a lot of resistance of the high level management.
Spot on. Oh, Ed Murphy, great to see you again, Ed. So I do large and small scale agile transformations, and I've been doing it since 20. I don't want to tell you how long I've been doing it, honestly. It's been a long time. And initially, we would approach this transformation, this evolution in the way of working with the employees, at the team level. But you're right. What we found out is that they were only able to be so successful in the way they changed, the way they worked. But then they would hit a ceiling, and the ceiling was leadership, because leadership didn't understand what was happening, why these changes were going on. So I encourage anyone who's trying to change the way they work to start with leadership. Leadership has to have an informed consent to any of the changes going on in their organization. And they're not going to have that informed consent if they don't understand why they need to change, why the culture needs to change, so that the structure of the organization can change. Yeah?
Okay.
Good? Okay. So again, we got to move into modern methods, and it takes a lot to do that. But here's some powerful information I wanted to provide to all of you that you might be able to bring back to your companies or to your owners on why we need modern methods of working. It comes from the Standish Group, and any of you who have ever been to a Scrumming class, you've seen this slide before. It's powerful. The Standish Group has been researching why Scrum and why Scrum works since 2013. And they come up with an answer that is very, very simple. It comes down to decreasing the average time it takes to make a decision. Again, going back to what we just said about leadership, we need leadership to understand changes and why we're making the changes, and that they are not going to be the decision makers on a daily basis. We need to go beyond poor decision latency. So Standish is showing us that if we address decision latency and move away from poor decision latency, which is when a decision takes 5 hours or more to be made, that's decision latency. Good decision latency is when we can have decisions made, or have the ability to make decisions in 1 hour or less. You achieve good decision latency by bringing the decisions, as I mentioned, closer to the people doing the work. Have you ever had a manager or a leader tell you how to do your job?
It happened.
Yeah, they're telling you how to do your job and what decisions you should make in your job when they've never done your job, or they did your job, but it was many, many, many years ago. So what the Standish report is telling us is that we need to push decisions responsibly to the people doing the work. And Scrum supports this. Scrum supports decreasing the amount of time to make a decision by creating small, empowered, cross-functional, self-managing, dedicated teams. That just doesn't happen in traditional project management, does it?
No, but it's not so easy to make this kind of team.
It isn't, but that's why you have to start with leaders, because the leaders are the ones that can change the structure of your organization. Remember? But they can't change that structure unless they understand what's in it for them, why they should do it, and why their traditional way of working isn't helping the organization or the people in the organization anymore. And most importantly, it's not helping your owners and your customers and your clients. Okay? Think about it. The Standish report found that if you have this good decision latency, projects will experience on average, look at this, 42% project success if you use Scrum and Agility. However, if you want to stay in that traditional world of project management, you're only on average going to have successful projects 26% of the time. The way we get good decision, we create good decision latency, 1 hour or less, is by removing, wait for it, removing unnecessary bureaucracy and hierarchy that exists in organizations. Who can remove bureaucracy and hierarchy?
That's the question. People from the bottom.
Yeah, well, you can help from the bottom, but honestly, leadership.
Yeah, you have to convince the leader, for sure.
That's what Agile champions do. That's what Scrum champions do. And I think there are a few people with us today that have been very courageous in moving those leaders from their cemented feet, pun intended, from their cemented feet that want to stay in traditional project management. So, because we know in this industry, there is so much hierarchy and bureaucracy, and I think some of it is unnecessary. Some of these, the list of sign-offs you have to get, the list of inspections and handoffs that we have in the design and construction industry is, in my opinion, outrageous. Now, I know that some of it's necessary, but some of it is just waiting. It's wait time with these sign-offs, inspections, and handoffs, and that's a big waste in our industry. And we need to look for ways to decrease that kind of waste. We need to approach with an agile mindset, but also a mindset where we create freedom where possible. But we also know that there are times when we need to standardize where needed. So let's find the way where it's possible for freedom and understand where the standardization is needed. Okay. So that was the traditional design, build approach. And what I want to talk through is an evolution of that traditional project. So we're taking steps towards those modern methods that I mentioned. And good decision latency is occurring now. We're getting some of that, and we're creating real change in the industry with what I'm calling a traditional light approach. It's the design build approach. Are you familiar? Are we familiar with design build?
Yeah. But, in fact, in France, there is quite a few design and build projects, more and more now. I don't know if other countries, so people can comment.
Yeah.
But in France, yes, it's quite common now.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes, from the architect point of view, the idea is not so good, but could be interesting if the relationship are good with the two sides.
Yeah. Well, what I like about the design build method of project delivery is it's one entity now. Now you're working with one entity. It's the design build team coming together, working under a single contract with the project owner to provide both design and construction services. So think of it this way. It's one entity, one unified flow of work from initial concept through completion with one contract. It's an approach that's bringing disciplines together. Some of these companies are sometimes called as EPCs, engineering, procurement, and construction companies. And now we're seeing a lot of support within communities because now there are institutes such as the Design Build Institute of America and the Canadian Design Build Institute that support these approaches. Do we have anybody from Canada today?
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
It was Trevor McHugh from Toronto.
Trevor, if you're not familiar with the Canadian Design Build Institute, this is a great group to get involved in to help show how design and build can come together and provide you with some tips, some tricks, some tools to help you there. A few other disciplines to consider here in this light approach are progressive design build, guaranteed maximum price, integrated project delivery, and using a pull system versus a push system of working. I'm going to stop there. Are you familiar with the difference between pull versus push systems?
Yeah, you can explain it again because every time I inverse the two.
Well, who's familiar with a Kanban board?
Yes, for sure. I think.
Yeah, Kanban is a pull system. So we are familiar with, and we know how much work we can pull in, our work in progress, okay, rather than somebody pushing work onto us, which creates waste in our system. We have too much work in progress and nothing is getting done. So we're moving from pushing work onto people to allowing people to work at a sustainable pace and pull the work in, okay. I want to point out this picture here because everybody is always asking me, and I think it was asked already from me for this meetup, to provide some real world examples of how we're doing Scrum on construction site, right? I don't know where the real world is. Someday I hope to get there, but here is the world. This picture on this slide is of a gentleman named Casey. And in the traditional world, he would be known as a project superintendent. But on this job site, this is an actual job site I was visiting with Felipe Engineer, by the way, earlier this year. They're using the Scrum framework that I had mentioned is the co-creation of Dr. Sutherland. And Casey is a Scrum master in this picture and on this job site. He's a Scrum master using a Scrum board to visualize work. And here's where we can better understand that pull system I'm talking about, with work getting pulled on those Post-it notes in as they're talking about what they can get done on the job site for that day. They're pulling in the work for that day and doing it visually so everybody can see what's happening on the job site and what might be blocking anyone from getting work done on the job site. What you don't see in this picture is that there are other people around Casey and around that Scrum board having a daily Scrum. And it includes the GCs, the subs, the trades, the owner reps, architects, and engineers. And sit down, everyone. The inspectors are also on the job site, ready to inspect anything that comes through. And they're all working as a Scrum team. I'm going to pause to see if anybody has a reaction to that.
Yeah. So in the construction side, the Scrum team is everyone.
It's everyone.
Including the inspector, for example.
Correct.
Okay.
A part of the team. Absolutely. How beautiful it was to see on this particular site when it was time for an inspection. One of the Scrum team members, all they had to do was go into the trailer, grab the inspector, and they went out and did the inspection. How often does that happen in your world?
Yes, so it supposes a lot of coordination and open-minded for transparency.
Right. Yeah. We're reducing wait time. We're reducing waste with wait time. So I do want to point out here, though, all of this is getting done as we had been talking about because we are taking this light approach, this design build approach, and we're seeing more collaboration, as we were just talking about. Collaboration with the owners and the customers in both the design and the build phases of the project. I have a staggering metric for you here, or statistic, I should say. In the Business Journal 2018, they reported that by removing the bidding phase alone in projects, going from design bid build to design build, that's increased time to delivery by an average of 33.5%. I'm going to say that one again because I think that's an important statistic, right? If we remove the bidding phase, the bidding process in this approach, we increase time to delivery by 33.5%. And I think our owners and our customers would really appreciate that.
Yeah. We have to communicate about this statistic.
Yeah, you got to get it out there for everybody. What's also important, yes, Frank.
No, just a question. So you mentioned design and build approach, but do you think to have a Scrum approach, we have to work with a design and build contract, or can we use more traditional contract and try to make Scrum on that?
You can try it, but it's going to be painful.
Okay.
Traditional contracting does not work well in an Agile world or with Scrum. Traditional contracts bind you to doing work in a traditional way. You want contracts. For example, my company is doing a municipal job right now, and we stated in the bid process that we wanted to work with Scrum. So if they were going to bring us on, we were going to work in Scrum, and representation from the municipality was going to have to come and be on the Scrum team. So contracting looks very, very different in an Agile and Scrum world. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's if you're using a traditional contract, you'll be chained to doing work in a traditional way. In my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're also seeing, as I mentioned at the top, and it was asked, we are seeing a greater push into using the lean principles. And what I'm seeing is that it's looking at and eliminating waste and using value stream mapping. These are the two primary areas of lean that I'm seeing make a push, making a dent, making a difference in the in those shops that are trying to move out of that traditional approach. So, but we can do better. We can do better than just implementing or taking on lean principles. And we're starting to do so. And we're doing it in the design and construction industry, just like Casey has been doing it. Casey, the project superintendent, changing his role to Scrum Master, changing the approach to getting the work done on the job site. But there's still something missing. What are we missing?
We take 1 minute to think about that.
Yeah.
What is missing?
What is missing? I had the traditional light approach where we eliminate bid and we go into design and build. We can take it a step and we add lean. We can take it a step further. What can we add to make this a revolutionary approach? Ed, you know how to answer this one. What are they saying?
Actually, no one is commenting.
No. It's
Sometimes,
not a test. It's not a
test.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is a little delay with.
Okay. So we're moving away from a traditional approach. We're adding in some lean principles, and we're bringing disciplines together. What are we missing?
Bring discipline. Is the iteration, no? To iterate.
Yes, to iterate. How do we iterate? We take those lean principles that I mentioned, building in the quality, eliminating waste, creating knowledge, deferring commitment, delivering faster, respecting people, and optimizing the whole. We take those lean principles, and then Scrum, so we can iterate, to your point. We bring in the Scrum framework. We honor the lean principles. We bring in the Scrum framework, and we build. And we create now, when we bring Scrum in, it's a revolutionary approach. We are now adding in what Scrum brings to the table. Scrum brings collaboration, innovation, and ideation to life in a holistic approach, and bringing the designers, the owners, the construction, the trade professionals all together to decrease risk, just like Casey did. This has and really can be implemented in this industry. And by the time I'm done here, I know I'm going to convince you of that. You can do Scrum in the design and construction world. But in order to go further in this presentation, I was hoping to present a short 4-minute video. I'm not sure if that's going to work on this platform. Can I give it a try?
Yeah. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
Okay, let's do it.
Scrum is a simple
Can you hear
framework
it?
to boost
Yes,
productivity,
great.
deliver products that will delight your customers. It does this by breaking the complex into smaller component parts. Teams then focus on tackling one piece at a time. After each incremental step, the team reevaluates what direction the product should take and what process is most efficient to accomplish that. Scrum allows you and your team to inspect and adapt your product, process, and plans more
Iteration.
quickly. An easy way to remember all the key elements of Scrum is this: 3-5-3. The first 3 represents the 3 roles in Scrum: the product owner, Scrum Master, and the team. There are 5 meetings that we call events, and 3 artifacts, which are produced in or help guide these events. Here's how it works. All good products start with a goal and a vision of how to get there. That's what the product owner does in Scrum. They own the what, as in what the team is going to make. The product owner creates a prioritized to-do list of all the things which need to be done in order to finish the product. This is called the product backlog. Then the team that will do the work takes a look at that product backlog during sprint planning, the first event in Scrum. In that event, the team pulls in only the backlog items they believe they can finish in a set period of time, known as a sprint. This shorter to-do list is called the sprint backlog. Once that's ready, the actual sprint can begin. Sprints are the heartbeat of Scrum. This is when the actual work takes place. Each sprint lasts from 1 to 4 weeks. They're short by design. A sprint should be just long enough to allow the team to produce a meaningful working piece of the product that could be released to customers. We call this a potentially shippable product increment. But sprints should still be short enough that the product owner, Scrum Master, and team can change course if needed based on consumer or stakeholder feedback. Throughout the sprint, the Scrum Master coaches the team and product owner on Scrum. They also facilitate the events and support the team as needed. Every workday, the product owner, Scrum Master, and team gather for the daily Scrum. This event should take no more than 15 minutes, and everyone states what they did yesterday to make progress toward the sprint goal, what they will do today, and they note anything that is slowing them down or getting in their way. The next event in Scrum happens at the end of the sprint. It's called sprint review.
This is important.
At this event, the product owner makes sure the right customers or stakeholders are there to see the potentially shippable product increment demonstrated and give their feedback. The final event in Scrum is the sprint retrospective. This is where the team looks back on the process and the sprint as a whole and says what went well and what could have gone better. Plus, they agree on trying something in the next sprint that may boost production or make the process work better. And that's it. the basic 3-5-3 structure of Scrum.
Okay. So before I go on, because you need to understand the foundation of Scrum before I continue. Any questions about the 3-5-3 or Scrum?
There is some question. There is a question from Vincent. We enter in the heart of the process. So, but you don't present the Scrum in the construction. But this is the first question about that. How do you manage the fact that designers are not fully dedicated to a project?
Oh. Why?
This is a big problem in our industry. I think it's one of the first problems that came when you think about a team, a multidisciplinary team.
Sure. The preference is that they do become designers that are dedicated to the team, but the reality is it doesn't always happen that way. So I have a case study coming up that I'm going to share with you where the design team became the Scrum team. Okay, so Vincent, this idea of a project dedicated to a project might help to understand that in Scrum we shift from projects to products. And so it's difficult to be dedicated to a project because you have project managers that dedicate you as a resource 20% to project A, 20% to project B, 20% to project C. Am I correct? That's how that works? Yeah. And in Scrum, we're trying to we are changing that from project focus to product focus, so that Vincent is working on a product. For example, building an eye care center. That is your one and only focus. You are the designer for the product, and the product is the eye care center. And so you stay with the team throughout the process. Now, when we get on the job site, the benefits of BIM allow us to know a lot more before we even put a shovel into the ground. The benefits include that architecture that creates that real-time 3D model that can also react to changing conditions, responding to change over following a plan. The push is to get the designer assigned to the product and stay with the team rather than be a 20% allocated to a project where you're designing that eye care center and then you move over here and you're designing a hospital and then you're moving over here and you're designing a multifamily home. That's what we're trying to move away from. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm going to give you some case studies that show that it can be done. Does that help?
Yeah. We had a great example of that with our last meetup with Paolo Samicheli, who show us an example of a whole engineering team of more than 100 people that work with Scrum, and there is a representative of this engineer team. She was very happy about that. So I'll let you watch this other meetup on our Agile BIM YouTube page.
Yes, awesome. Paulo is I have great respect for Paulo. He is an expert. If he's talking, you should all be listening to Paulo because he's an expert and he's got much experience in this area. Was he in the meetup?
Yeah. Our previous meetup in July.
Yeah. And he was the July meetup. Did he share with you the book he's authored?
Yeah. The book with Joy Justice.
Yes, and it's Scrum and Hardware.
Yeah. And Joy Justice was one of our mentor in creating Agile BIM. So we will be very happy to talk with him one time.
Yeah, Joe Justice used to work here at Scrum.inc. So yeah. Those are two brilliant individuals. To listen.
We could have the contact with you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So let's go in practice. So because you present us the general approach of Scrum, and everybody want to know more in practice what you discover in Scrum.inc.
Yep, let's move on.
Is a simple
Oh,
framework
goodness.
to boost productivity.
Stop, Tom.
Not.
So yeah, there's that 3-5-3. The rules of Scrum are simple. They're not easy to apply. And remember, we refer to the rules as 3-5-3. 3 roles, 3 events, 3 artifacts. And the Scrum framework does this so that it can create focus on fast feedback loops and bringing people together to do twice the work and half the time and continuously improve. So here's that first practical application. This 3-5-3 approach was taken with a company in the oil and gas industry in Azerbaijan. I cannot tell you the name of the company. I'm under NDA. But I can tell you that when Scrum.inc went in 2018, we worked with the offshore oil refinery in Azerbaijan. And we went in there at the beginning of 2018. We identified, well, first we trained them on the Scrum framework, because you can't take the theory and put it into practice until we have an aligned and shared understanding of what the framework is and how it's going to be applied within your industry, with your product, in your company, with your teams. So you have to train up on Scrum framework. And then we worked with them throughout 2018 to identify and create 16 Scrum teams. And these 16 Scrum teams are, remember, a Scrum team has a product owner, a Scrum master, and up to 9 developers, the people building or providing the piece of value, the increment of work. In this case, it was building an offshore oil refinery. That was our product. And the results of doing this, well, we got them through that by the end of 2018. So it took a year. It took a year to get that framework trained and to get those individuals up and running as Scrum teams. But the results were striking. Here's a couple of numbers for you. They saved $26 million in 1 year in logistics costs. They were able to change how they use and optimize their vessels to come and go from the oil refinery. And by doing that, they reduced logistic costs by $26 million. These Scrum teams, they were empowered. Remember, Scrum teams are empowered, self-managing, and cross-functional, meaning cross-functional. They have all of the skills and knowledge within the team to get work done. And when you do that, when you have teams that can be self-managing, empowered, and cross-functional, they can identify opportunities for change and for improvement. These 16 Scrum teams were able to find and identify opportunities that reduced capital expenditures by up to 1 billion, not 1 billion, 1 billion. Gotta get my facts straight here. Opportunities to improve.
No fake news, please.
Yeah, all right. Reduce the capital expenditure to up to $1 billion in that year. That was 1 year. Imagine what the power of teams looking for and applying opportunities can do over multiple years. And the number of work orders for these 16 teams that were executed behind schedule, because who doesn't have work orders that fall behind schedule, right? They were able to reduce that by half, almost half. So for me, this case study, it helps solidify the fact that you can take this 3-5-3 approach into any industry, and you are going to have some staggering and striking results because you're changing the way you're working. You're combining lean principles with the Scrum framework to solve for complex and complicated work. So what do I mean by complex and complicated? So modern construction projects are both, in my opinion, they're both complicated and complex. And we need to understand that there needs to be a fundamental understanding that there's complexity and there is complication in our world. And if we do that, and if we see that, we can stop inefficiencies, we can stop delays, we can stop cost overruns. How do we do that? Well, construction projects, again, I mentioned, they're complicated. There are many moving pieces in the design phase and in the build phase. If they're not coming together, to Vincent's point, and the complication and putting folks where they need to go when they need to be there. The parts need to fit together to drive the job done. We need to bring together the designers, the equipment, the materials, the tradespeople, and the laborers. Lean solves for that complicated by being able to fit all those pieces together. But construction projects are also complex, and we've got to be able to adapt to and pivot to the uncertainties we're facing in design and construction. And hey, are there any uncertainties we are facing right now in the world? I can think of two major things that have happened in the world in the last 2 years that have absolutely impacted this industry and had to have this industry start adapting and pivoting to those uncertainties. What are they?
The COVID.
COVID!
For sure.
Yeah, for sure, COVID. And what about recently? What's happening recently that the design and construction industry needs to face?
The price of the material.
Oh, yes,
No?
inflation.
In France, yes.
Yeah, I mean, in the United States, we're experiencing inflation levels that we haven't seen in over 30 years. And I haven't had a chance to look around the world, but I think we have worldwide inflation, correct?
Work from home, said Sonal.
How does a construction worker work from home?
Yeah, for the designer, yes, why not? But for the construction, it's not so easy.
Yeah, it's not so easy. One of my clients is a global manufacturing organization, and they were deemed in an essential business, and their employees were deemed essential as well. So they got to go to the job sites. They got to go into the factories, but that's not always the case. But again, complexity is needing to adapt and pivot to the changing uncertainties. And you're right, COVID, supply chain solution, inflation, those are VUCA. Are we familiar with the word VUCA?
No.
Volatile, uncertain, complex, and oh gosh, somebody help me out. What's the A in VUCA?
VUCA.
Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, accountability. I know it's a changing world. What it means is a changing world. I'll find that and get that to you. I can't believe my brain is like taking a complete mental break here right now. But some additional uncertainties. What's that?
Ambiguity. It's ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Thank you so much. I don't know who came up. Thank you for that. Thank you for helping my brain. Oh.
David say agile.
Ambiguity is the A in VUCA, VUCA, VUCA world. That's what construction projects are dealing with. But they're also, even prior to COVID and supply chain issues and inflation, the design and construction industry faces the need for pivoting all the time, because sometimes we have a scarcity of workers. Sometimes we have those pesky owners who want to change, and they have demands on what they want to change as they're designing or building. And of course, governance. My goodness, I would not want to be in the construction industry right now in Germany. I'm working with a gentleman. I haven't met him in a while, but Professor Korn. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Professor Korn. He works at the Universität Karlsruhe. He is their professor of BIM. And he shares with me all of the governance rules that Germany is facing in trying to make some of the changes. And what is the biggest opportunity for pivoting and adapting when you're actually on a construction site? When you're working on a construction site, what's the one thing you cannot plan for in whether or not you work or you don't work?
The weather?
The weather. Exactly. You got it. It's the weather. So we need to be prepared for that. And Scrum is solving. Scrum solves for the complex. Lean solves for the complicated. So Scrum amplifies Lean and goes further. And there's a lot on this slide. And it's I don't know if we're allowed to share the PDF, but I'd like people to be aware of some of the information I have here. and how traditional project management under-delivers in the areas of both the product and the process. Vincent, to your point, remember, I'm talking about making sure we focus on products versus projects. And so the statistics are staggering here, and I'm not going to read through all these statistics with you, but I do want you to,
Thanks.
Yeah, right? There's just one. I just want you to look at one in the lower left-hand corner. It's that bullet point. I want you to take a look at that, because I believe this bullet point is important for BIM. 52% of rework is caused by poor data and miscommunication, resulting in 31.1 billion in rework costs alone in 2018. I know that BIM has many benefits, but the benefits of BIM when it comes to reducing rework in both, design, workflow, planning, construction, and operations is helping greatly to reduce rework. And I want to leave you with this. This industry needs more collaboration with owners, contractors, and engineers and designers to deliver what people need and focus on the right work in the culture that is embracing change. This culture does not embrace change. Remember, I was telling you, there's an aversion to change in this culture. We need to embrace change, and we need to have the ability to adapt quickly so that we can address the challenges of both product and process.
Yeah. We have a comment of David on that. David says it was about your comparison a few times ago, but he has the question, how to change the idea that design teams are working on a product instead of the traditional meaning of the project. So it's about the change management. So where a design stage project or whole lifecycle project?
Both. I mean, so the company I'm working with right now, they cannot get past the idea that there needs to be design, which is separate from build. You're right. They can't get past that, and that's okay. But we can create a Scrum team around the designers that do the design phase, and then, I hate to say this word, then they provide it to the other Scrum teams that actually are building and delivering or the product or the service. So, David, are you in a traditional setting right now, or are you working for a design firm, or do you work in a design build approach? What do you do?
No, David is he's teaching Agile in Spain. So, but I think some of his clients he's facing this type of problem with his clients for sure.
Is it the client? Who's the client? Is it an owner, or is it who is it?
Yeah, he will tell us some more detail, I think, in comments, but we have a little delay between the the live and the comments, probably. So
okay, well, let's take a look at it from this perspective, and let's see if we can help
Yeah.
out. Because here's the how. How do we do this? How do we make the changes to products and process? How? And well, a few of us, including Felipe Engineer, came together and took a look at the Agile values. How many of you are familiar with the Agile values? I hope everyone.
yes, every morning I read it.
Oh, really? Every morning?
That's
You
a joke,
put it
but
under your
yes,
pillow.
this is quite important.
Yeah. Put it under your pillow and sleep with it.
Yeah.
So, but we tried to take and apply and translate the Agile manifesto into the design and construction world. And here's what we came up with. This is a part of how we're making that mind shift. David, how can you start working with your clients to help them understand the differences?
His clients are architects and owners.
Architects and the owners. Oh, okay. Because you're teaching them.
Yes, probably, yes.
Okay. So this will be really important. Maybe you can show them this Agile manifesto of how we bring them together and focus together versus looking at a project through the stage gates. You can maybe use this. And if this doesn't help, I want you to go back into that chat and tell me. Okay. So in the Agile manifesto, we have individuals and interactions. For the design and construction industry, that can translate into working together across specialties and teams to deliver a common goal. rather than project focus, where we all focus on just a slice of something. Let's take a look at the common end game, the common goal at the end. We have working product over comprehensive documentation in the manifesto. Let's say that might translate to we deliver design or work in place incrementally and gather feedback from various stakeholders. That's that iteration that we were talking about with Scrum. Customer collaboration over contract negotiation could translate to we work with suppliers and owners to co-develop solutions. And the fourth value, responding to change over following a plan, that can translate to we acknowledge that plans will change. This is huge. We acknowledge in design and construction that plans are going to change. Therefore, we create plans able to address the changing environment. Yeah? So that's how we can translate the Agile Manifesto into the design and construction values. Make sense? I want to stop for comments here.
Yeah, that's more longer sentences than the original. But yes, it's important to try to traduce that, because when you present the Agile Manifesto, everyone will not see what you mean when we talk about working project for in the construction industry. It's quite different. So it's interesting to try to make this traduction.
Yeah, right. Again, you all are on the forefront of culture change in the world that you're living in, right? You understand that it's not easy. You can't just hand the manifesto over to your owner and they're going to go, oh, yes, great, let's do this, right? It doesn't work that way. And I'd love to give you a recipe to get their minds to click automatically, but it doesn't. But you can encourage them to go on a journey of experimentation with you. And then as they see what you're doing and the results of what you're doing, they're going to be more willing to come with you on that journey. But it's the world I live in. When I go into any organization, no matter what the industry is, I'm inviting change. And people resist change unless you can give them a reason why they must change. And that's what we're doing here. Notice how this Agile Manifesto really brings everyone together. We deliver either the design or the work in place incrementally and gather feedback. And BIM does that in the design phase. You're working, right? You're working collaboratively. So how do you introduce that way of working into the work in place environment? It's going to be different for each one. It's for each project. But one thing I want to say here is that if we have, again, that focus on product, what is the true product that the designers, the engineers, and the construction folks are trying to create? Let's go back to that example of Casey. He was building the I Institute in California. Remember Casey, this project superintendent? And he was the Scrum Master. He did not focus on building the building as his product. As I had mentioned to Vincent, he focused on the product being delivering eye care to a community. So that's that common goal. It doesn't matter if you're designing, you're engineering, you're building, you're a tradesperson. If the common goal, the product, is delivering eye care to the community, now you can all work together.
So who is deciding for this common goal? How you can engage everybody to be involved in this common goal?
In Scrum, who owns the product goal? Do you remember? I know that was a very brief video, but so I won't test you on this. In Scrum, the product owner owns the product goal. So in design and construction, it could be here, let me go there. Oh, very next slide. So it's those three roles. Here, take a look at this. It's where does that go? So the product owner in this case might be the project manager, or whoever is typically interacting with the project superintendents, the customers, and the stakeholders on a regular basis. So the product owner might be that project manager, or it could be the owner. I cannot recall any of my clients allowing the owner to be the product owner. I'm going to call on Ed, because I know Ed is Ed still here?
Probably.
Yeah. Ed, have you ever seen the owner be a project owner? Ed has a lot of experience in this world too.
Could be possible for you. I don't know if he's still here.
Maybe not still here. Okay. All right. But this is showing you how we still have those roles in Scrum and how the roles in design and construction can fit into Scrum. So our customers could be our owners. It could be owner representatives, stakeholders, end users, the developers. They could be.
Ed is still here. A lot of times, you say.
A lot of times. Fabulous. Oh, awesome, Ed. I like that idea. We're not seeing that in the United States as much. Ed, you're in Ireland, correct? Or UK? I can't remember.
No, in UK.
Okay. So that's encouraging to hear. We are not there quite yet in the United States, but I love the concept of the owner being the product owner. So this is just a way to help us understand that you can fit these traditional design and construction roles into Scrum roles. How much time do I have left?
About 20 minutes. But
20 minutes?
yes, if do you have other example? I had another question about Vincent a few minutes ago.
Okay.
He asked, we use the Agile approach on our project. One of our issue is to propose Scrum approach during CD stage, donc concept design stage. Do you think Scrum can be easily used for early design stages?
Yes.
So
yes.
Design stage versus construction stage.
Right. Absolutely. Again, we can, in this next case study from ABI that I'm going to give you, it's a major capital project. It'll step through what they did and the benefits they found from doing that in the design phase. Vincent, are you familiar with FEP, the FEP phase, the funding in a funding stage of a capital project? That's what this case study, probably. Okay. So I just want to make sure I understand the audience I'm speaking to, because obviously, I'm going to tell you to use Scrum, right? Because I'm from Scrum.inc, and I go into every client and I get them to use Scrum, and we use Scrum in many different ways. What we want to move away from is we can start using Scrum with component teams, and that's what I would consider you, Vincent. In the design world, you would be a component team of designers. And I think that if you started off in the early phases of design, you will find ways very quickly with Scrum to reflect on how you're working and how you can make changes so you can condense the phases you have within design. That's what we're doing with BIM anyway. We're condensing all those stage gates and bringing all the way. So, okay. So you okay if I give you this case study real quick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
All right, good. So this is a case study completed by Anheuser-Busch InBev, which for the rest of the case study, I'm going to refer to Anheuser-Busch as ABI. Anybody familiar with beer here?
Beer, yes.
Yeah. Okay, right. This case study, so because this is going to be a company that has approximately 630 different brands of beer in over 150 countries, and that's a lot of beer.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So ABI is that brewing company. They have a global functional management office in New York City, and then they have regional headquarters in Sao Paulo, London, Mexico City, St. Louis, Bremen, and Johannesburg. This case study addresses an approach to a large-scale capital project. And these types of projects we recognize that these types of large-scale capital projects face primary constraints commonly known as the project management triangle, right? The project duration, the project quality, and the project budget. Those are the three. In 2019, ABI, a subsidiary of ABI, made the decision to go to an Agile mindset and implement the Scrum framework into its capital project construction process to improve upon all three of those areas that I just mentioned. It was the team out of St. Louis, and they called themselves the St. Louis Axe Facility Team. This team is an innovation project focused on multiplying the uses of beer byproducts. The project itself was in the FEP, the front end planning phase of the funding stage of the ABI capital project process. The team focused on using Scrum throughout the design phase. That's why I think this is going to become important for you. Based on the team members' experience with the traditional construction methodology of FEP, that phase, the team has seen the greatest benefits of implementing the Scrum framework in 4 areas: communication, interdependence, accountability, and results. Now, this is their case study, their words. I want to share with you a little bit more detail around how Scrum was able to work in those 4 benefits, okay, with their experiences. The first benefit is communication. I don't care what project you're working on, communication decreases. In Scrum, communication increases, okay? Scrum encourages participation of all of the members of the positions in the team become equal. All these members are equal. We replace the hierarchy, and the team members in this case felt that no matter what their position outside of the team, on this design team, there was equity and equality of each individual contributor, precipitated by candid dialogue, honest discussion amongst all participants. So as an example of this communication, they continued daily display and review of the sprint backlog. Again, that's one of the artifacts in Scrum, the sprint backlog. And they held Scrum team tasks, team members and tasks up on the board, made everything visible, and they talked about priority and duration of work in the sprint. So this clearly announced to anyone who viewed that Scrum board the level of importance, the level of priority of the work, and the status of where that work was. So according to one of the Scrum team members, the Scrum Master in this case, he said it's very difficult to not know what's going on the team. You can't hide work. You can't hide inefficiencies. You can't hide waste on a Scrum team. The second benefit is interdependence. Interdependence between team members to accomplish their tasks resulted in an overall increase in quality of product delivered. By increasing the visibility of the tasks and the priorities, team members were more able to see where they could contribute to the team and to the work overall. If you can see the work, if you can see the direction the work is going, you can work as a team to talk about who can help who can contribute where do we need the help. Yeah. As an example, the process designed for, in this case, protein refinement of brewers saved grain. It's the BCG. It's the design for protein refinement of brewers. That had never been attempted at this level before in industrial production. And to further complicate matters, the process that was required needed to fit inside an existing building that was constructed over 100 years ago. So through close collaboration between civil and process engineering, the Scrum team was able to optimize a process design for protein refinement that takes advantage of not only the existing building layouts, but new construction. So according to the product owner, Scrum enabled very high levels of collaboration and coordination between team members. Okay, now here's this third benefit was accountability. These are benefits to using Scrum as seen by the design team, okay? Accountability. A universal theme among all members was that Scrum dramatically increases accountability of the team collectively and the individual team members. An example, accountability flows organically throughout all parts of this team. When a team member announces that there is an impediment, a blocker, something stopping them from completing their work, it forces the Scrum Master and the product owner to help remove whatever is stopping forward motion and work, and working together to do that. The Scrum Master said, Scrum provides the right amount of ownership behind tasks and allows for accountability, but it's the right kind of accountability. It's not the shaming, the blaming accountability to one individual. We're working as a team to be accountable for a common goal. And finally, the fourth benefit is results. All Scrum team members were firm in this case study that they're in their belief that the Scrum team is producing more favorable results than the traditional method of design and construction. Even though there were some delays in this particular project funding and implementing Scrum, the team was able to make significant reductions to the total project budget, with a maximum estimate in excess of 50 million in total project value. Over the 6-month delay that was presented to the Scrum teams, they were still able to reduce total project value by 15% with no significant changes to scope. As the Scrum team member says, you really need to, in Scrum, you really need to check your ego at the door, because you are not an individual in Scrum. You are a part of a team. There's no room for hierarchy. You have to be willing to improve and admit when you're wrong. I want to stop.
Great feedback. And so it was from the design stage to the construction stage for this project.
It was through the FEP phase of that stage, through the whole thing. Yes. This is a case study that has only gone 6 months. We grabbed this case study early on because Scrum.inc is in there with ABI. This is our work with them. We're getting ready to go back in now after. We want to wait for a full year to go by. So I think we have 1 to 2 more months to go back in and see what the additional results are. I'd love to get some more data around this and see how far they were able to take it.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And so I have another question. So about the mindset, I have a discussion with an agile coach from IT, and he insists with me about presenting the mindset and to have the the agreement of all the participants to this mindset. So is there a case for you when you present this mindset and people are not okay with that, and you see that there is some resistance and people who want to have more power on others, and sometimes is it always possible to implement this kind of approach, or sometimes there is too much resistance and you have to say, okay, stop, we can't.
Right. It's a waste of time and money if there isn't a willingness to change. Right. And again, it doesn't matter if it's design and construction, IT, marketing. Again, I go back to this, and I want to point out this book. This is Cotter's latest book on change management and culture change. I like to call it resistance to change, and it's our job as agile coaches to help decrease the amount of resistance. And I mentioned it before, individuals biologically resist change because they're not understanding why they could or should change. We need to help them understand the why behind the change. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. But yes, to your point, I have said to potential clients after doing a go see, a Gemba, a go and see what the environment is, and said, you're not ready. Your environment, your organization is not ready for this change. And I also leave behind a list of things that they need to do in order to be ready, to be an agile environment, to start implementing Scrum. But absolutely, there are times when you have to say, you don't say no, you say not yet. You're not ready. Okay. But you also have to give them what it is they should work on to be ready.
So, but if they call you, probably they want to change. But yes, you can you can have a diagnostic on the organization and find what to change before trying to make Scrum or something like that.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Something as simple as maybe they're not ready for an agile transformation, but they're ready for that talk that David and Vincent were mentioning. They want somebody to come in and coach them on transitioning from project to product. And we can do that. And if we can get that transition from project to product, that focus to change, then we can come in with an agile mindset. Then we can come in and start implementing Scrum and Scrum teams because they've made that mind shift there. So sometimes it's baby steps. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Lisa Adkins. She is a magnificent agile coach, and she's written a book on coaching agile teams. Lisa talks about finding out where your owner is, your customer is, your client is in their journey of agility, and then getting half a step in front of them and kind of coaxing them along in the process. And I think that focus from project to product is a great first step in helping to coax them along in their agile journey.
I will ask you the question where to start. So this is an answer. Thanks, Dee. We have a there is a discussion in the comment with Edward and David and Alijit about yes, the place of the product owner. So I will show a comment of Edward.
Absolutely.
You agree with his comment?
Exactly. Well, Ed, listen, Ed's been doing this. Ed's been doing Scrum in design and construction for a long time. So if you get an opportunity to tap into Ed, please take it. Ed, I hope I'm not throwing too much at you, but also, is it David? Oh, is it this David, or did I hear that David McCarthy? Is he on the call?
David McCarthy, I don't know. This is David Delgado.
Okay, David, Edward Murphy, that would be the optimum indeed.
Yes, he asked about the lack of client maturity. So this is the same problem that we mentioned already. But okay, it's near an hour and a half, so it was a great discussion. Just to finish, yes, you have two case studies more about. For me, engineer project or more technical projects. So me as an architect, I'm more in contact with stage where creativity stage and project here in architect where I work with more creativity. But so would you start to try to convince Frank Gehry to use Scrum? So Frank Gehry made a very creative architecture, and so for this type of person, so do you think could be possible to implement Scrum for this type of agency, architectural agency?
I think the urgency lends itself well to Scrum because Scrum is all about creating a sense of urgency to deliver incrementally. And the urgency also provides focus on what it is you're doing in short iterations as well. I'm not familiar with, say it again, what was it?
Frank Gehry.
He
made Frank Gehry made in Los Angeles the concert hall. There is in Spain the Museum of Bilbao. So it's an architecture very with a very specific form and.
I'm so sorry. I'm not familiar with it.
So it will be it will be another example in the future. We will try to to implement Scrum in a very creative architectural company, and
I would
we'll try to have some feedback about that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about how that works and how that evolves, and perhaps join the conversation of how we could provide a Scrum approach to it and learn. I would love to learn more from you.
Yeah, okay, we will try to do that.
Yeah.
Do we have other comment? No. So, Sebastian, you have a slide for finishing, or you have a conclusion, Dee?
No, I just wanted to say that. So the conclusion here on that ABI case study was simply that they felt like they were insane for not adopting Scrum. Remember, this was the design team. They're saying they were silly to not adopt Scrum and the methodology sooner. So
okay, and so for people who want to contact you, or you have a specific learning course in Scrumming.
we do have a design and construction Scrum Master class that I mentioned at the top of the hour. And you can just, if you're interested in connecting with me, not necessarily taking a course, I would love to have you all connect with me and we can share with each other our experiences and our knowledge as we go forward. And it's very simple. It's Dee Rhoda at Scrum.inc.com, or you can easily find me on LinkedIn, Dee Rhoda.
Okay, thank you very much. So
Okay.
Edward say that Frank Gehry is his favorite architect. He does not know
Frank
Scrum.
Gehry. Oh, I'm
Yes.
so sorry. Frank Gehry. I thought you were saying something completely different.
Oh, sorry. My accent is so bad.
No.
But he does Scrum with his client, but without knowing that. So he asked us an advice to watch on YouTube is a conversation with about the Maggie Concert Care Centers. So thanks, Edward, for this advice. And thank you very much, Dee, for this great conversation. There's a few people all around the world, so it was very interesting. We hope that everybody was interested in the conversation. So the next meetup, now we have a next meetup in less than 1 month. So so we try to finish the year with all the meetup we plan, and it will be with Speckle .js and EFC.js. So two open source tools. So we will see how open source could work with Agile and BIM. So thank you very much, everyone, and hope we will see everybody again in 3 weeks. Thank you, Dee.
Thank you.
And see you. Bye bye.